Welcome to our world. Won't you come on in? Waiting just for you. Welcome to our world.
Okay, I think I'm good.
All right.
Let's go.
Today,
I can't wait to hear what this topic's going to be about.
I think this is going to be really fun. This is a topic I wanted to do for like 2 months, but then we had the holidays and all these episodes that I felt that we should do. Like, you have to have a Christmas one, you have to have a New Year's, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So this episode, and I don't really know what I will title yet. Your mic's not on, you know that, right? Okay. And that's why. But what I want to talk about are like moral dilemmas and philosophical issues. And I don't want to talk about it in
This is
general.
a good topic. This could be a good topic, potentially.
I know.
This could be a very good topic or very bad topic.
No, it's going to be a good one because I want to talk about very specific moral dilemmas, not just like in general.
Okay.
So, for example, if you are all out there wondering what the heck is a moral dilemma, I mean, you're all smart, so you can put those two words together. But specifically in like philosophical speak, an example of a moral dilemma would be the trolley problem, which, you know, maybe some of you are familiar with that. Some of you aren't. You are. I know we've had this conversation.
From Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood when I was a kid, because he had the trolley that came through the little town all the time. It wasn't really a problem. It just came right through. And no problem. They always had the music that went with it. It was kind of cool.
So for the listeners,
Mr. Rogers was a really good guy.
We should have an episode on Mr. Rogers.
I know. And we're getting sidetracked. I'm getting sidetracked.
Okay. The trolley problem is, for our listeners and those who don't know, is a famous thought experiment in ethics where you are presented with a scenario where a runaway trolley is heading towards 5 people, but you can pull a lever to divert it onto a different track where only 1 person is standing, essentially forcing you to choose to kill 1 person to save 5. So you and I have talked about this before. I personally would not do anything. Which the trolley problem specifically, and like these moral and ethical dilemmas are very divisive because a lot of people feel really strongly about what the quote unquote correct thing to do in this situation is. For me, I wouldn't do anything because I feel like, and you could argue that inaction is an action, but I feel like me choosing to pull the lever is me actively deciding
to kill
that
someone.
People are going to die.
You're
right?
choosing who will live and who will die.
Exactly. If I just step back from the lever,
I've always wanted
it'd be
that.
the same. It'd be the same thing that if I weren't there.
Though.
What?
Haven't we all wanted that?
That power? No, I've never wanted that power.
To decide who lives and who dies.
And that's why you have a much different view of this than I do.
No, I guess.
What would you do?
Well, what I would say is, if it was a clear, like, this will happen, if you don't do anything, maybe another way to word it is, if you choose not to do anything, 5 people will die.
Sure, that's what I'm saying.
If you choose, I'm saying it this way on purpose, though. If you choose to flip the switch, only 1 person will die.
Right.
All right. So this is a real straightforward example, because this makes the assumption, and I know this gets more complicated as you go along, this makes the assumption that you don't even know these people. It's random, 5 random people, 1 random person.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of feel like, because what if it wasn't 5? What if it was 10,000 people? 10,000 people or 1? I think it gets clearer the more extreme the example gets. So if it were like a clear, this will happen, period, end of story, yeah, I would do it, because I would come down on the side of, I'm saving 9,999, or in this case, I'm saving four additional people. 5 will die if I don't do anything. I'm making 5 families really upset, or only one family is going to be really upset.
My argument with that, because that's what a lot of people say. A lot of people, their argument is quantity over quality. So you can save 5 lives or you can save 1. Obviously, if I say it just like that, you're like, well, yeah, I want to save 5 people, not 1. However, what if those 5 people are terrorists, members of ISIS,
I let them
and
die.
that one person is Mother Teresa,
In that case,
who is a frequent guest on our podcast,
yeah.
a frequent mention.
Yes. She comments all the time.
All the
right?
time. You know what I mean,
If
though?
she were still around, she would.
You can't, the quantity over quality
Right.
does not
But that's
work.
what I'm saying. That changes the problem, right?
But you don't know. That's the whole point. You have, let's say, 2 seconds to decide if you're going to pull this lever or not. So if you're pulling that lever in 2 seconds, you're just doing it based on the quantity.
I picture, okay, I'm at some kind of a control station, but I'm up high enough that I can see the tracks one way or the other.
But you still don't know who these people are.
I know I don't. My point is, I can see 5 people. I can see 1 people, and I only have 2 seconds. 1 people's. Okay, I only have 2 seconds. So, like, first of all, I feel I can imagine myself like, oh, what do I do? But I feel like it would almost be, at least for me, it would be pretty clear. Like, 1-5. I'm going with the odds. I'm letting the 1 die. And I know you could say you're actively taking action that will kill this person, but I'm offsetting it with actively taking action, which will save these 5 people.
And so in the counter example I gave, you just saved 5 terrorists
but you don't know
now
that you're
go
doing
on
that.
to kill hundreds of thousands of people.
No, those five terrorists are grateful to me
but this
for
is the
saving
whole
their
point.
lives. I know
You don't know.
So, okay. Well, then I guess would the correct take be
there's not a
God
correct
has
take.
chosen, or some
That's
higher,
what I'm saying.
God has decided these people are going to die, right? And maybe there's a good reason for that, which, I think I don't actually believe that. But even if that were the case, I would think to myself, well, God knows I'm there and I'm seeing this. He would expect me to want
intervene.
to try to, I don't know, make the outcome less bad.
Right.
Now,
so
let's say if it were 2 versus 1 person. Go ahead. What?
So the argument being everything happens for a reason and all that stuff. But part of that is you being there to pull the lever.
Right.
Is that your argument?
Kind of, yeah.
So here,
it's kind of like whenever I'm at a stoplight, I always feel like, especially if it's like I'm in a hurry and the stoplight's only green for a little bit and then it goes red again. I feel like the engineer, when they put that stoplight in, they never planned on me being there. So I'm always that one extra person waiting there, and they didn't plan on me being there. Does that make sense?
No, okay. But that reminded me the other day when I was on my way to work, there's this light that has like 7 different roads that are coming into it, right? And so it's a really long light because it's like right when you're getting onto I-4. So it's a really long light. It finally loops back around to me, like where I am, and I'm in the front of the line. I'm the first car, okay? And I'm paying complete attention, as you should do when you're the first car, right? Complete attention. It turns green. I hit the gas, and as I start going, it turns yellow. And I'm like, what?
Wow.
This is supposed to be a long light. Like, it's supposed to be at least like a 15, 20 second. Like, there are a ton of cars behind me. It was very shocking.
And did you start thinking, maybe I missed it? Maybe it turned green sooner and
obviously
I didn't see it. Okay.
So only like 2 cars made it through.
Yeah.
It was nuts. Anyway, so the philosophy tie into this is people argue utilitarianism versus deontology. So utilitarianism or utilitarian ethics is choosing the action that maximizes overall happiness. So pulling the lever to save 5. So you are a utilitarian. I, in this scenario, am a deontologist because in deontological ethics, you follow strict moral rules, which could mean not pulling the lever and letting the trolley kill 5 people. So we're like the 2 different sides.
So, like I said, I always think to myself, if that example were 1 million people versus 1 person, because I mean, you're obviously not going to have an example with a trolley, but you could have an example where that is legit, right? where you could say, an extreme example where you're going to have a huge number of people that can die versus one person that can die. If you think about it in a way, now this is a much more complicated example, dropping the bomb, the nuclear bomb, well, the two bombs really, World War II, right? The atom bomb, that sort of comes down to that's part of the argument is they talk about how many more people would have died if the war went on, right?
Right.
I think it's a harder sell because you don't have any guarantee of that. In the example, that most people look at, like in the simplified example, it's like this will happen, period.
Right.
Right.
So I think, again, that we're just talking about the utilitarian, which is you're talking about causing the least overall harm possible.
Right.
That's what you're concerned with. Whereas the deontological perspective is, the argument that it's never okay to directly kill someone, to
Right.
directly have a hand in that.
Right.
And you don't if you don't do anything.
Okay.
It's you're indirectly harming someone, but you're not directly killing someone.
Well, is this a good example then? Let's say you are in your house. You have a gun.
I'm so sorry. You are going to love, because the next example is a variation of this. You are going to love this in the next
Okay.
example. Go ahead.
Okay, you're in the house. You have a gun.
Sure.
Someone walks in the house.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to kill me, your grandmother, and your aunt.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so 3 people
I
can
killed
die.
them. What are you asking me?
Or that's my question. Or
That's
the
completely
assailant-
different.
Well, that's why I'm
The
asking.
people on the people on the train tracks aren't fighting each other. This isn't.
but still, you're
different...
taking an action that will result in someone's death.
But keep in mind that directly affects me. If you don't know the whole thing is that you don't know the people on the tracks. You don't know anything about them.
Okay, well, but that's interesting though.
Because I think there's so many variations of this, and and we should move on because we're already spending a lot of time on it. This is a good
so
one, though. I know. And one of the variations on it is that it's 5 people you don't know versus 1 person you do.
That's what I was
your
just going to say.
mother or your sister or your friend or whatever. It's like, do you pull the lever then? And I think a lot of people would say, yes, you pull the lever.
Well, that's what I was
because
just going to
this
say.
is my friend.
Well, and let's say, sort of the opposite scenario, right? Where, okay, the one person is the person that you know, person that you love most in the world. And if you don't do anything, they die.
Right. Well,
if you pull the lever,
That's
if you
what
pull
I'm
the
saying.
lever, then you're causing 5 people to die to save 1.
I know, but that's what it's this. I understand what you're saying. It's kind of flipped, but it's the same premise.
That to me is a more difficult moral dilemma. Because I could say to myself, I could almost look at that as being selfish then.
It
and
is.
say, I want to save that one person because, it's someone that I love. It's someone that I know, someone that I love. Or the other way around. If it's somebody that you hate, would you just switch the thing to
Ooh, that's a
not do
very
it?
dark one, isn't it?
I know.
Someone
But
that
I
you
feel
just
like
really
it
don't
could
like.
be
Okay.
finally a chance that justifiable reason.
That's horrendous. Okay. So a fun variation on this, because there have been if you guys haven't heard of the trolley problem before and this topic interests you, just Google it. There are so many different variations of this, but I've never heard of this one. This is a fun one.
Okay.
It's called the fat man on the bridge. I knew you would love this one. In this variation, you are standing on a bridge above the tracks and could push
Why is it me? Am I the fat man?
No.
Okay.
And could push a very large man onto the tracks to stop the trolley. But this directly involves physically harming someone to save others. Do you push the fat man onto the tracks? I, a deontologist, still say no because I'm not having a direct hand in any of this. But
Is this nice guy?
I don't know, but I will remind you that your argument as a utilitarian should be the same because you're for the greater good. So even though this is no longer about a lever, you're still doing the same thing by killing one person to save 5.
And I think I've heard this one before.
So what would you do, utilitarianist?
I guess here's the thing. I have a hard time wrapping my head around this because I have a harder time automatically accepting that, if I push this guy on the tracks, it's going to save these 5 people.
But it is. It's
I
telling you it is.
I know. You could tell me it's 100%. This is what it will do.
Okay, and it is. So
I
kill
just
him.
can't. this is where I'll admit, this is where I don't know that I could do
But
that
it's
because
literally the same thing.
well, it's the same outcome, but you're not
you're
separated.
sacrificing
You're
one
not-
life for
I
5.
know,
Because
I know.
here's the thing:
Well-
as taking like the deontological point of view,
Mhm,
that's the same thing for me.
mhm.
Either way, if I pulled the lever,
Mhm.
I am actively killing one person. It doesn't matter if I pushed them or if I pulled the lever.
Mhm.
They're still dead because of me.
I'm assuming
It's the
maybe
same
part of the thing is
outcome.
I'm assuming this huge guy is a nice guy.
Why would you assume that?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
So then you're just not consistent.
I'm probably not consistent here. I'm probably not.
So you wouldn't push him. So then you don't actually believe in
no,
utilitarianism.
What I'm saying is it would be a more difficult decision. Like here's the thing. When you look at pick anyone, pick Adolf Hitler, right? Now, nobody had to kill him because he committed suicide. But the vast majority of people, okay, or maybe a more, I don't know, more recent, still a long time ago for a lot of people, would be Osama bin Laden, right? At least in this country, the vast majority of people, they would want him eliminated. But how many of those people, if they had to be the one with the gun, would still kill him? Because you don't have that like kind of separation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that argument can go back to like anything where you're ending someone's life, and then you have to decide. You make the call, basically. You know.
All right, we're moving on to the next one.
You weren't even listening to me.
So the
you were
next
reading.
one,
You were doing what you yell at me
because
for all
one
the
of us
time.
needs to keep this episode moving, and it is I. The next
I'll be
dilemma
back.
is the organ donor dilemma.
Goodbye.
You know what this one is? It's
I
a
might.
very similar concept
Go ahead. I'm not positive
that
like,
you can. I mean, I don't have the whole thing sitting in front of me.
like. Is it where you're forcing someone to donate an organ?
You're not forcing, but it's one like otherwise healthy individual
Mhm.
can donate 5 of their organs to save 5 individual people, but they would die. And the 5 people would live and live happy lives. And so would you, if you were the doctor, would you try to convince them to save 5 people? Would you?
No, absolutely not.
Okay, maybe not if you're the doctor, but what do you think in this situation?
Well, this see, to me, depending on the specific example, you come down more on one side or the other, right? As in, it's easier to come down. That one, it's much more.
Or
It's much more
actually,
difficult to take a utilitarian stand
No.
and say, well, you're going to save more people. So
It's not, because again, I can't, I tried to Google it, it's not, the actual thing isn't coming up. I don't think the organ donor is not healthy. If I recall correctly, the organ donor is in a coma that they don't know if they're going to wake up or not.
right.
And so the question becomes,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, that's more
should
realistic.
they-
That's a
I
realistic
know,
example
and I think
too.
that's more what it's supposed to be.
I think unless this person already had made like a decision before they went into a coma,
Mm-hmm.
I come down on the side of like personal autonomy. So in other words, you can't just say, well, you're done. You're a vegetable. We don't think you're going to come back from it. So we're going to take your organs. That to me, the thought of that is like horrifying. Then you're just harvesting parts from people.
But so how is that? Because it's similar in many ways to the trolley problem, right? How is it different?
Well,
All right, moving on to
I
This
would
is
be
so
really
much fun.
curious to know
okay.
what other people think about this.
I was just going to say, so here, just in this little thing that the AI came up with, here's some opinions on this. Some argue that organ donation is a social obligation and that people who have had their medical needs met have an obligation to donate to help others.
But as you say that, I think to myself, some people think like that's the point. It's like
Many-
people have different opinions.
Many ethicists believe, how is an ethicist an actual job? What are those people doing?
How do you become an ethicist? You just call yourself an ethicist.
Right? I mean, you obviously go to school and stuff, but then like what? Anyway, we
Yeah.
could talk about that later. Many ethicists believe that actual consent isn't essential for organ donation. They argue that the default position should be that people would want to donate their organs for the good of society.
I agree with that.
So they're like utilitarianists.
No. What I'm saying is I agree that it's a good thing to do. people should have those advance directives, right? That says if I reach this point, then I want to donate my organs. But it's no one else's call. You know what I mean? So if someone never said anything about it, one way or the other, I don't think it would be good enough even for someone to say, I think they would have wanted to do this. I think by default, you have to recognize personal autonomy. I just think it's horrible when you start to treat people like that to weigh.
Some argue that family decision-making is culturally important. However, others say that this can lead to difficulties, such as when the wider community needs organs against the wishes of families. And this kind of makes me think of, there's at least one Grey's Anatomy episode that I can think of, but there are probably a couple where someone's in a coma or a similar situation, and the doctors are talking to the person, their medical proxy person, and explaining, there's a good chance this person's not going to wake up. If they're not awake by this state, they have very healthy organs that can be donated.
But if you wait, maybe then.
Right, exactly. And so at that point, it is the family member kind of making that decision.
I think I guess that depends on what the laws are as far as that goes.
Yeah.
But like I said, hopefully in that case, the person who's in the coma has already ahead of time said, if I get to this point, this is what I want to do. Or I trust my family members to make the decision for me if I can't make the decision,
I don't know. I kind of feel like maybe we think that as an ideal because obviously, you just a couple months ago did like your will and all that stuff. And so you have a very specific plan for yourself. I would be interested to know what percentage of Americans actually have some kind of plan for that and have a specific thing like that I don't want to be resuscitated or that I want to do this with my organs or that this or this. I feel like a lot probably don't have anything.
And I'm sure it's different by state, but in that case, what is the default? Does the default automatically defer to the children or the whatever relatives? How does that work,
Right.
But it's probably different by state.
Probably. Obviously, listeners, we would love to know your thoughts on all these because these are very sketchy topics.
This is very deep.
We're moving on to our third and final dilemma, which actually is deep because it takes place in the ocean. That was a nice segue. Great work. So this is...
Great work, me.
Good job, me. This is the lifeboat dilemma. This is actually very specific, this whole thing. You're in the middle of the sea. The ship is sinking and the seas are rough. All but one lifeboat has been destroyed. The lifeboat holds a maximum of 6 people. There are 10 people that want to board the lifeboat. The 4 individuals who do not board the boat will certainly die. Here are the people.
I
So
know
you
why I
have
find
to
this funny.
choose who you're letting on. Woman who thinks she is 6 weeks pregnant. Lifeguard, 2 young adults who recently married, seniors, these are so specific, senior citizen who has 15 grandchildren, elementary school teacher, 13-year-old twins, veteran nurse, and the captain of the ship. I feel like this problem and how specific it is was just meant to tear society apart. This is because, can I be so honest without being judged right now?
Go ahead.
I
think a lot of people probably will make some of the same thing.
Initial reaction to this is, as literally just right now as I'm reading this, is who's not coming? The senior citizen, not because it's a senior citizen and an old person, oh, you've lived your life. Not because of that, but because they have 15 grandchildren. So they've lived their life. They've experienced, I don't want to say it like this, but all that life has to offer. There are people, and again, I don't think you should put quantity over quality of life and all that stuff. But clearly you've lived a fine life.
Right.
And your family, you have a giant family, they'll be fine.
Right. You might die the
Gotta
following
go.
day anyway. And I know.
Ooh,
I
that's right. I didn't.
I'm just saying.
I didn't
I'm
say
just
that.
saying. I mean, that could happen to any of those people.
It could.
I was kind of thinking the same thing, even though it seems really cruel. But I would probably keep the lifeguard.
Yeah, you should keep the
Okay?
lifeguard. I was
Well,
thinking
that's the
that
thing I
too.
was going to say. Having the senior citizen on there. Okay, you only have 6 people. You're in a lifeboat in the middle of the ocean. That's rough. You know what I'm saying? Like you're
Yeah.
gonna have. You need all hands on deck. You need
I know.
people.
Strong.
So
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that one I would keep. They're what? 2 13-year-old. What did it say?
13-year-old twins. You only keep one of them, right?
Well, you got 2 anyway. You know, you got to right. You no. I probably.
The trauma
Yeah, I know.
cause.
We're gonna
Oh,
draw
my
straws
word.
here,
Absolutely not.
or just make them fight it out.
Okay, do you keep
what?
let's go one by one through this
Yeah.
list. Who you keep? We've already agreed we're keeping the lifeguard. I
That's what
agree
I'm
with
thinking.
that.
This is my initial thoughts. Okay.
I mean, I think because
So-
here's the thing: if you get 6 people on this lifeboat and then something happens, someone falls overboard and nobody can swim, and it's like, what was the point?
So hold on. Do it this
the
way.
lifeguard could be useful.
I'd rather do it this way. Say who we're not going to keep because it's
okay,
just, to
well,
me,
that's
it's
what I'm
easier.
saying. But I'm
The
going to go step by
captain-
step.
The captain, I don't, because that's the captain goes
Goes
down
with
the
the ship.
So
Okay, I could see that.
That's sort of, and it doesn't say anything about his age or anything, but I think that's
Okay, how do we feel about the woman who thinks she is 6 weeks pregnant?
okay. Now it doesn't say anything like she's just making that up, right?
No, it doesn't. But just the way it says it, I feel like the first, and this is maybe because I'm a cynical person,
Mhm.
which I realize in moments like
Mhm.
this always. But I feel like the way I read that was this is something she realized the ship was going down.
Uh-huh.
She was like, "No, you have to let me on. I could be 6 weeks pregnant.
I mean, yeah, you could also have a guy who's like carrying a kid saying,
I have
I
a
have a
child.
child. I have a child. She's all I have, right?
Okay. Anyway, what do you think about her? Are you keeping her or no?
I want to go through all of them to see who else I have to eliminate.
we've
but
already kept the
I do
lifeguards.
lean toward keeping her.
2 young adults who recently married, they're gone. They had a great time. They were happy when they died. Get out.
But
They would
their
have divorced
their
anyway.
best part of their lives are in front
No,
of
they would have
them.
divorced anyway. Get out
It
of
doesn't
here.
say what their plans are for the future, does
2
it?
young adults who recently
I
married.
wish I knew what their plans were, because then I would
No,
decide whether
they're
or
gone.
not I
50% of
condemn them
marriages
to death.
50% of marriages end in divorce. Goodbye.
Okay.
They're done. So I feel like I'm just knocking people
Yeah,
out
yeah.
left and right now. Okay. Oh wait, I'm at 6 then. 1, 2, because I knocked out the 2 adults who recently married.
Oh, yeah.
The senior citizen and the captain of the ship.
So who are the
I'm
other
already
ones that
at
are
6.
staying? Who's the other ones that
So
are
who's
staying?
left?
Yeah.
Do you agree with my analysis?
So
No, you
far,
don't.
but I want to see who else is left on the
So
ship,
it would
on the
be,
lifeboat.
which I don't know. Maybe we just kick her out anyway. The woman who thinks she's 6 weeks
No, I'm
pregnant.
good. I think I'm good
The
with her.
lifeguard,
Yeah.
an elementary school teacher, the 13-year-old twins, and a veteran nurse.
Okay, veteran nurse again makes sense because.
You couldn't
Right.
eat her in the journey.
So who was the one right before that?
The 13-year-old twins.
The elementary school teacher.
and an elementary school teacher, yeah. Oh.
So it's between her and who else did you just kick off a minute ago?
Because here's the thing.
Wait, who else
the
did you
two
kick
the
off a
2
minute?
young adults who recently married. Because
there are 2
now
of them, so-
exactly, you get to that and it's 1 versus 2 anyway. You're not going to
Maybe
only
we keep just
one of them.
twin and one
and
of the
one
2
of
that
them-
recently got married.
Great.
You
I would-
spread the misery.
I would love to know. And I also want to make it clear talking about this
Mhm.
makes me feel awful. I feel like an awful person, but I'm fascinated by this because I haven't heard this one before. And I would love to know what listeners think
Yeah.
and where
Yeah.
I'm going wrong here.
What a
if at
horrible,
all.
what a hard.
I
Well, first
know.
of all, realize that if this were to happen, it's not like those people who we decide are not going to get on the lifeboat. It's not like they're all going to be willingly like, yeah, that's a good point. Like
Mhm.
the senior citizen, like she's going to be like, yeah, I've lived my life. Let me just go down with the ship. The captain, you would think would do that, but give no guarantee. I think a lot of people, I could just see fighting and maybe people would die. Maybe in the end, this is horrible, but maybe it's survival of the fittest, literally wind up on
Like
you know what
a
I mean?
Lord of the Flies situation.
I mean, imagine they're
You
on
know
a
what the
desert
Lord of the
island.
Flies is?
I do, but I don't.
Okay, this is actually the last one we're going to end with really quickly. It's called The Old Woman in the Airport.
Okay.
You are in the airport trying to catch a flight that is about to leave. As you run down the crowded corridor, an elderly woman suddenly slips in front of you and falls to the ground with a cry. I love how they had to add that. Do you stop to help if you know you will miss your flight because of it?
I would love to say yes.
Here's why because if I knew I would miss my flight,
Where's my flight going?
no,
I
yeah,
need
you
more
have
information.
you need more information. My initial reaction to this is because obviously without just reading the last sentence, I would help her up. Obviously,
In all
anybody would.
honesty, she probably fell because I bumped her as I was rushing past.
Probably
Out of my way, old woman.
But my thought is, and maybe I'm giving people too much credit here.
Right.
There's so many people in an airport. Someone's going to help her up. It doesn't have
Well,
to
that
be
was my
me.
first thought, but in the problem, the way it says, maybe it's like late at night. Maybe it's, you know what I mean? Maybe there's hardly anyone left
If you don't
in the
help
airport.
her up, she'll be lying
lay
there
there.
for hours.
I've fallen and I can't get up, kind of thing. You know, the janitor will find her early the next morning or something.
Yeah. Anyway,
I would probably stop and help her.
if you knew you would miss your flight.
Yes, because
Well, you're retired. You don't
I
have
know it
anywhere
doesn't
important
matter.
to go
I have
anyway.
no place to go. Well, think about it. Most people, it's not like if you miss your flight, it's the end of the world, right?
That's true. But then
So
I think
feel like this is to me this is an easier one because it's kind of like your selfish needs versus.
But this is what I love about these like moral dilemmas
Mhm.
is the whole point is kind of molding them and adding extra things until you're like, at what point would you not help her?
Yeah.
So what I will say is you are a doctor going to, I don't know, a different state or a different country.
Mhm.
You are on a
For
time
life-saving
crunch.
surgery.
Yes. Life-saving. You have an item on you, some
Right.
kind of vial or serum or medication or whatever,
Right.
that you getting on that plane in time, you are going to save 5 people.
Okay, there you go.
Do you help
Well, I
the
don't
old
know.
lady?
Or what about this?
No, let's add
Go.
to this one, okay? You get on the plane in time, you save 5 people's lives.
Mhm.
If that woman falls and you don't help her up
Mhm.
and you run by her,
Mhm.
she dies because no one else helps her and she like has cardiac arrest or
What if-
something.
How
What
about
do you
this? What if it was life-saving surgery to save someone, right? But so you were like, I'm sorry, I can't stop. And then after you got on the plane and got there, they said, we don't know what happened. The old woman who was supposed to be on the flight with you never showed up.
Okay, anyway.
Okay. Or if you're
That
the doctor,
variation doesn't work.
hold on, you're the doctor and you have to get on the flight because of life-saving surgery, but you're not actually going to be the one operating. You're the one getting the life-saving operation.
Anyway,
What about that?
let us know your thoughts. Comment, like, subscribe, email us, do all the things. We'll see you on Friday.
We talk about crime.
On Friday, maybe we could
Okay.
mention it. Have a
Okay.
great week, everyone.
I should have already started.
You just started, didn't you?
Check. Check.
Ooh.
1, 2.
Anyway,
Wait, this is the part of the program where I clear my throat.
please.
I have an announcement to make. Okay, go ahead. I think I'm good. Okay, I think I'm good now.
I'm sure the people are really loving listening to this outtake that's just you clearing your throat.
Give the people what they want.
Is that what they want?
No,
Okay. Well, then what should
they
we
don't
give
want
them?
that. Nobody wants that.
Nobody wants.
Can't help it. Ow,
Can't help what? I refuse to have this conversation with you. I feel like these headphones are gonna make me talk slower because I'm like trying
Explain
to
to
catch
everyone.
up. Because
what
I
to
got so Jim very kindly got me Bluetooth headphones for Christmas. But so I have them connected to the laptop so I can hear us. We're so official here. It's crazy. But there's like the tiniest delay. So I'm listening to myself talking right now, but I feel like I should be slowing down to catch up. You know what I mean? It's so weird. But I like it. I feel like a professional. I can still hear you on my mic.